with a recharged zest for life.
She like a ball of fire. She like to have fun.
Her personality was just so magnetic that it was kind of hard to not like her.
And when she catches the eye of a charming new suitor,
he gave her lavish gifts, he wined and dined her.
Their connection ignites a passionate whirlwind romance.
I was like, dang, she did find somebody good.
She fell head over heels in love with him.
But when their whirlwind romance spins out of control, who is to blame?
He finds her face down in the bed, and blood is everywhere.
I hate to ask this, did you suspect her of having any kind of affair or anything?
He had an axe to grind. He was upset about the divorce.
I just started saying some things that was uncomfortable to me.
Listen, I don't want to go to jail.
It was indeed a fatal attraction.
The devil had come to that apartment that morning.
May 25th, 2010. It's a typical Tuesday morning in the southwest Atlanta neighborhood of Adams Park.
Adams Park is a community known for its diversity. It was established in the late 1920s as a planned community for African Americans.
These people are homegrown. They are native to the city. The people who live in this community are hardworking, working class, salt of the earth type people.
But just before 9 a.m., while most of the neighborhood is heading off to work, a chilling 911 call comes in to local dispatchers from 18-year-old Mia Walker.
911 emergency. What's the problem? Tell me exactly what happened.
We just got onto his house, but his wife just laying on the bed. She's not waking up.
Mia says her stepmother, Demetra Smith, needs help immediately.
When Mia called 911, she said that they found her laying face down in a pool of blood. She wasn't sure if she was alive or not.
Where do you think blood coming from?
She begged the ambulance to hurry and get there, but they weren't really sure whether Demetra was going to make it. It looked pretty bad, and everybody was fearing for the worst.
There was never a dull moment when 47-year-old Atlanta native Demetra Smith walked into the room.
Demetra was funny. She'll have you laughing all night with story after story, joke after joke. And when she love you, she love hard.
Her personality was just so magnetic that it was kind of hard to not like her.
But Demetra was also tough and worked as a security guard at a local hotel.
She was a really good person, but she ain't take no BS. None whatsoever. If you do something to Demetra, she gonna speak and stand her ground.
Many people looked up to Demetra as a mentor. She was a hard worker, and there was some long hours there.
And those long hours didn't leave much time for love.
She and her husband, George, had recently split due to irreconcilable differences. They were married for 3 years, and it just wasn't meant to be, but they remained friends.
Now in her late 40s, Demetra wondered if she would ever find love again. But that outlook changed in the spring of 2009 when she started dating 39-year-old Orlando Smith.
They met through some mutual acquaintances.
He's handsome, and he says all the right words to sweep her off her feet. She fell head over heels for Orlando.
I did think she found her Prince Charming. I mean, he was taking her to get pedicures. They was doing like spa dates. I was like, dang, she did find somebody good.
Okay, hold up. I was wondering if you'd like to take a trip with me on my birthday.
Of course, I wouldn't miss it. Where you think about going?
Vegas, baby.
Yes.
In February of 2010, Orlando whisked Demetra off to Vegas to celebrate his birthday.
She was like, I'm going to Vegas. And I was like, Mom, you know what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. And we kind of joked up like that. I'm like, okay, well, have fun. Call me when you get back.
And when Demetra returned from vacation, she shared some unexpected news.
When she came back, she told me she got married, and I was like, you got married? She was like, yeah, I got married.
By all accounts, Demetra and Orlando were looking forward to many years of marital bliss.
The two moved into an apartment together and started really living life as a happily married couple.
But now, just 3 months after the couple moved into their new apartment, Orlando and his daughter Mia have found a gruesome scene in the bedroom.
They found Demetra in a pool of blood and face down on the bed.
Where do you think the blood's coming from?
Minutes after receiving the 911 call, Atlanta police arrive on the scene.
When the detectives arrived to the scene, they found Orlando and Mia completely traumatized by what they just seen.
The best thing for them was to send them to the police station so that they can have a moment away from the scene to calm down and then give a statement.
Meanwhile, the first responders check Demetra's vitals.
They're checking on Demetra, but it's clear that there's nothing that they can do for her. They declared Demetra dead on arrival.
The first responders call in homicide.
Get Detective Quinn on the line.
I was headed to work early that morning, and I get a call saying, we're gonna need some extra help. This is gonna be a difficult one.
When Detective Quinn and his partner arrive on the scene, they get right to work.
I see this poor sister face down in the bed with her hands behind her back.
They confirmed that rigor mortis had set in, so hours had passed between the time that she was killed and the time that her body was discovered.
There was blood everywhere. It looked as if someone fired a gun right in the back of her skull.
Which immediately leads the seasoned detectives to one important conclusion.
I know, she's been executed. This was a brutal, major crime scene that involved a malice murder. The devil had come to that apartment in that bedroom that morning.
Security guard Demetra Smith felt like she'd gotten a second chance at love with her new husband, Orlando.
Before marrying Orlando, she'd recently divorced her husband of 3 years, George Allen. But Orlando really swept her off her feet.
Anything her heart desired, he did it.
But just 3 months into the marriage, the couple's dream of spending the rest of their lives together is now broken.
She's been executed. The devil had come to that apartment in that bedroom that morning.
Based on the positioning of the body, investigators believe the killer got on top of her to pin her down and fired a bullet point blank into the back of her head.
Demetra had to have been absolutely terrified because she knew what was coming.
They found that there was a sock shoved in her mouth, presumably to keep her from screaming.
There's no murder weapon located near the victim's body, but detectives find a potential clue in the bedroom closet.
There was a gun belt that looked no different than the gun belt I used in my uniform. The only thing missing in this particular utility belt was a firearm.
They wonder, did the killer take the gun and use it to kill her?
The thought of a service weapon being turned on an officer hits home to the detectives.
This was an official gun belt, so that heightened my sensitivity at the time.
Next, detectives continue their search throughout the residence for more clues.
Sitting in the kitchen sink drain, they noticed 2 bloody rings.
Hey, Quinn, look at this.
I could tell it was a set of wedding bands. I mean, they were just conspicuously laid right there for us to find.
Investigators surmise these are Demetra's wedding bands.
She wasn't wearing any when they examined her body, so the blood suggests they were removed after she was killed.
But what are they doing in the kitchen sink?
It makes no sense, but that may be nuggets that indicate it's a crime of passion.
And nearby, detectives locate another related clue.
We see there's divorce papers.
Her name is listed at the top of the document, but her husband Orlando's is not.
Rather, the papers finalize the divorce of Demetra's first marriage to a man named George Allen.
So why is this piece of personal documentation just laid out? At that point, we didn't know what it meant, but we tagged it, we bagged it, we kept it as evidence.
After wrapping up their initial search of the crime scene, detectives turn to Demetra and Orlando's neighbors.
Once you've secured the scene, it's time to work out this shoe leather, try to see if the people that actually live there can give you some clues.
Some neighbors report hearing what sounded like a gunshot around 2 a.m., followed by an alarm going off.
After the alarm was sounding for about 30 minutes, an officer actually showed up.
Oh, really?
Come to find out, about 2:30 in the morning, a 911 call came in about an audible alarm going off at this particular apartment complex, at this particular apartment unit. And an officer actually responded. But what we find out is, this officer, he sees the door open and there's a dog on the inside of the apartment, and the officer elects to just make a police report and leave the scene as is and close the door. I mean, he was afraid of the dog, probably.
It's a frustrating discovery for the detectives.
If the officer had gone in, he may have been able to catch the killer in the act or even save her life.
If you got an open door, that means your day just started and you gotta go inside and make sure that scene is safe. That didn't happen. Human error happens all the time in any investigation when you're the cops.
But in speaking with the apartment complex manager, detectives uncover another important piece of information.
We've been dealing with a lot of crime around here lately.
There'd been a rash of burglaries in the area, and it was one apartment unit where a couple of brothers lived that were troublemakers.
The brothers, Ty and Tam Jackson, have been terrorizing the neighborhood for weeks.
The Jackson brothers have been responsible for about 14 robberies in that area in the recent history. They have been knocking on doors, seeing which doors are unlocked, and breaking into homes.
They were always involved in stuff, pushing in doors, jiggling doors to make sure they were locked.
And since Demetra's door was found unlocked, detectives wonder if this is what led to her murder.
Did she catch the Jackson brothers in the act before the situation went awry?
They were going to have to be found and ferreted out.
On average, there are over 1 million burglaries annually reported in the United States, with over half of them being home invasions. According to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, 83% of would-be burglars check for the presence of an alarm system before attempting a break-in. Atlanta police investigating the homicide of 47-year-old Demetra Smith have just learned that a pair of brothers named Ty and Tam Jackson are responsible for a recent rash of break-ins at Demetra's apartment complex.
So now the police have to consider that her murder could be the result of a robbery gone wrong.
Did Demetra catch the brothers in the act and pay the price?
This sounds almost exactly like what could have happened in this particular case.
However, the apartment complex manager qualifies the break-ins as petty thefts, not armed robberies.
They've never really harmed anyone. Nothing like this.
All they did was break into vacant apartments and, try to get air conditioning systems, things they could tote off and sell quickly on the street.
They are just thieves. They are not necessarily cold-blooded killers.
The apartment complex recently evicted the brothers due to the nuisance they've been causing.
Do you have any idea where they went to?
No, not a clue.
No one seems to know where the Jackson brothers are now.
Thank you for your time.
Of course.
Investigators issue an APB for the Jackson brothers before heading back to the station. There's 2 more very important people they need to speak with.
It's time to go talk to the folks that made Discovery. That's gonna be Orlando Smith and his daughter, Mia.
To make sure they did everything by the book, they put Orlando and Mia in 2 separate rooms.
We got Orlando and Mia separated. We get another team of detectives to talk to Mia. But I wanted to get in here and hear from Orlando. You always want to talk to the spouse. You want to understand where they were and if in fact they had anything to hide or if their story is shaky.
Orlando still seems pretty upset.
Sorry, I know this is really hard.
Hold on, be right there.
Detectives asked Orlando to take them through the last 24 hours.
Where were you last night?
I was at my daughter's house.
The night before, Orlando Smith went to go visit his daughter, Mia, and ended up falling asleep on her couch.
Okay. What time did you get there yesterday?
Made it around about just after 5.
Okay.
Close to about 6 o'clock, about 6.
All right, so you got there and you stayed there all night until this morning?
Yes, with my grandbaby, stayed a while, and I fell asleep.
Orlando stated that he woke up to a message from the alarm company.
When he got the message that the alarm went off, that triggered him to call his wife.
And when Demetra wouldn't answer her phone, Orlando became even more concerned for her safety. He woke up Mia and told her they needed to go check on Demetra.
And when you got to your house this morning, can you tell me about that?
My door was cracked, so I went in and I went up the steps. She was laying face down, and I was over it, grabbed her. I was like, baby, no, I don't know, it was like a panic, I just started hollering, and just broke down and started crying. It was like the blood down there.
Orlando says that's when he instructed his daughter Mia to call 911.
911 emergency. This is my dad. We just got to his house, but his wife is laying on the bed. She's not waking up.
In an adjacent interview room, another investigator is sitting down with Mia.
Your stepmother had been murdered, so why would somebody want to kill her?
See, that's the part,
That's the whole point we're all at.
Yeah, that's the part I was thinking about, that's when I was in hospital, I'm shocked. When I called police, I didn't even too much know what to say. I just seen, blood everywhere, and I was stuck. He even had to tell me to call the police, because I'm I don't even know what to do.
When pressed for details, Mia gives the same timeline her father is providing in the room next door.
So when your dad got there yesterday at 5 o'clock?
It was 5 going on 6.
Right, somewhere between 5 and 6, he never left.
No.
Y'all walked in together and found her, right?
Mm-hmm.
She confirms he fell asleep on the couch. She confirms that he was unable to reach Demetra by phone. She confirms they both rode back to the house together to check on Demetra, and when they arrived, they found her.
It sounds like they're telling the truth because they're able to confirm each other's alibis.
Eager for more information, detectives in the room next door gently press Orlando about his relationship with his wife.
How about you could start from the beginning, how long you've been married, how long you lived there?
We just got married on my birthday.
When was that?
February 20th.
Do you guys never have loud verbal arguments or any physical altercations together, anything like that?
No.
He says they were very much in love.
Orlando says the last time he saw Demetra was around 4:30 p.m. the day before.
She had gotten a phone call from someone and left to take the call, but he didn't know what she was talking about.
But he does say that lately, prior to Demetra's passing, she had been leaving the house more and more frequently and not telling him where she was going.
I hate to ask this, but I have to. Did you suspect her of having any type of affair or anything?
I was told that, but I really can't just be for sure.
He says someone told him his wife, Demetra, was having an extramarital affair.
That changed directions of the investigation immediately because now officers have someone, maybe a jilted lover, who wanted, Demetra to leave her marriage.
And when asked who Demetra may have been having an affair with, Orlando offers up a theory.
He starts injecting his wife's ex-husband.
She actually went over to the man's house.
What man? The former man?
Her ex-husband.
He says that he wasn't too happy about the fact that she married him. As a matter of fact, she had to divorce the first husband rather quickly in order to marry Orlando.
For detectives, this revelation immediately brings to mind clues from the crime scene.
The fact that there were divorce papers conspicuously laid out, and you got wedding rings inside the garbage disposal covered with blood, like you married this other man, I'm taking these rings off because you're always gonna be my wife even in death. We had to figure out if he fit in this equation.
After wrapping up their interview with Orlando, detectives bring in Demetra's ex-husband, George Allen, and they'll soon discover he's an open book.
Could you first tell me, a little bit about Demetra?
Well, she had two sides of her.
Atlanta detectives investigating the murder of 47-year-old Demetra Smith are sitting down with her ex-husband, George Allen.
According to her new husband, Orlando Smith, she may have been having an affair with George.
But is George capable of murder?
Could you first tell me, a little bit about Demetra, how long you were married, and that kind of information?
Well, we was married about 3 years.
George explains that her feisty personality was not always a good fit for their marriage.
Well, she had two sides of her.
Demetra is like a ball of fire. She a outgoing person. She like to have fun. She got a lot of energy. He kind of like just laid back.
Did you know anything about her current relationship with the man, Orlando?
I couldn't even tell you what he looked like.
George says he's never met Orlando.
George doesn't seem to have a vendetta against Demetra. Still, detectives get his alibi for the night of the murder.
Your hours of work are?
From 6 and 12.
Since Demetra's estimated time of death is 2 a.m., George's work schedule doesn't eliminate him as a suspect.
It's a flimsy alibi.
Detectives need more information to get to the bottom of this case, so they turn to Demetra's loved ones, including her daughter-in-law, Talisha Johnson.
I started talking to the detectives, whatever needed to be done to get the case resolved.
According to Talisha, it seems George's relationship with Demetra was just as amicable as he made it out to be.
He signed the divorce papers when she went to go get remarried with no issues at all, so they were still real good friends.
However, Talisha says the same can't be said for Demetra's relationship with Orlando Smith.
When I first started going around, he was providing. I seen that she was happy.
Orlando just kind of came out of the blue, swooped her up like a knight in shining armor.
But Talisha explains, as time went on, Demetra began withdrawing from her family.
He came in, she started pushing herself away, and I don't know why she was doing that.
She just slowly, started pushing away from us. She started distancing herself from me.
I started seeing a lot of control. He didn't want her to go anywhere, and he can't do things that she wanted to do. So the relationship definitely took a turn, and I would say for the worse.
The truth started to become clearer that there were some pretty significant issues between them in their short marriage.
I just started saying some things that was uncomfortable to me. I just don't think things is what she said it is.
The storybook relationship had now turned toxic.
Eventually, their arguments escalated out of control.
Orlando was actually physically beating her.
She had been abused by this man.
Orlando always told her he was sorry, promised he would never do it again.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
She was being controlled. And it's kind of crazy because when I say she don't take no BS, like she was just like mad in love.
We're both tired. Maybe we should just go lay down. Yeah, come on. Let's go to bed.
But deep down, Demetra knew Orlando's promises were empty.
I think she began to discover that she had made a mistake.
She wants to get herself out of this situation.
Fed up with her abusive partner, Demetra had finally made a plan to leave him.
She had gone out on her own and secretly secured a new apartment lease in an unknown location.
She was doing what you're supposed to do. She was trying to get out of it.
She was set to move in her new living space the day after she was killed. So bam, that's huge.
Police can no longer give Orlando the benefit of the doubt, and they now know clearly that he's lying to them.
His story is falling apart, and the linchpin of his story is his own daughter as his alibi. We gotta figure this out.
They decide to conduct follow-up interviews with both Orlando and Mia that same day.
This time, investigators decide to start with questioning Mia.
Was she in fact telling us the truth? Was she giving us everything from what she believed happened in this situation?
At first, Mia sticks to her story.
She says he stayed the night over there, slept on the couch, and then they got up the next morning and went to the house and discovered the body.
Just my dad getting up like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning so he can get ready to go to work.
So right now, we're believing as a collective that Mia holds the answers. So instead of going into round 2 in the classic sense of the word, we're trying to get an interview with her, we decide to leave the room.
And even though investigators step outside the room, cameras capture everything.
When they're watching her on the CCTV, they notice Mia make a phone call.
Like, it's crazy.
Sometimes you gotta lay back and let the fish hop in the boat.
Yeah, but like I'm scared. Like I really do know the truth.
We don't even know who she's talking to, but she says something that just blows our socks off.
To be honest, like, I believe my dad killed her.
Atlanta police have just discovered that the picture of a happy marriage Orlando Smith painted for them was actually a cover for an abusive relationship his wife Demetra was trying to escape.
What we find in short order is that she was in the throes of a domestic holocaust.
So far, Orlando has been shielded by his daughter Mia, who told detectives he was with her on the night of Demetra's murder. But now, they've caught Mia confessing otherwise.
I believe my dad killed her, but it's like he's trying to be right on this.
That was a crazy statement. That right there is punctuation for a homicide investigation, and we barely had to lift a finger going into round 2. It's time to go in with kid gloves, comfort, and care, and see if she can tell it again to us.
What's wrong? To be honest.
Be honest, I mean, what's wrong?
Like, I'm just going to take them to
You did?
At that point, Mia can't hold it in any longer. She breaks down and tells them that she had been lying to cover up for her father all along.
You gotta let her understand. This is a situation where people go to jail just for helping or telling lies. You wanna take them straight to church.
I don't want to go to jail.
I don't want you to get in trouble. Talk to me.
And Mia, she begins to paint this picture.
Let's start over. What happened?
Like this, he came out and said 220. I bet at the time it was 220.
Dad, what are you doing here?
Can I come in?
She said her daddy came to her house around 2:30 a.m. that night, not 5 p.m. the day before. That changes everything.
And when she let him inside, Mia says her father seemed nervous.
He just kept getting up smoking cigarettes, and it's not like him.
Mia is letting us know her daddy showed up in a wife beater and some shorts, and this brother is always clean, always dressed to the nines, and he looked unkept. And the one thing he wanted to do was go take a shower.
Can I use your bathroom?
Go ahead. Yeah.
She told detectives that her father took a shower and changed clothes, and then he told Mia if anyone asked that he was there all night.
In our minds, he wanted to go wash that murder off. And that's exactly what she chronicled to us when she broke it down. And it was nothing but the truth. We believed her.
Mia says around 8 a.m. the next morning, her father asked her to ride with him back over to his apartment. And along the way, he asked her for another strange favor.
As they were driving to go check on Demetra, Orlando handed Mia a bag of clothes and asked her to throw it out of the window.
He said, I told him, on MLK right across the street from Sunset Hill. And he was like, throw it out.
Mia says that the bag her father handed her was a lot heavier than it would have been if there were only clothes inside of the bag. And immediately detectives think, could the murder weapon have been in that bag?
The next step was to verify this bag of clothes was thrown out at the location she said.
She brings the investigators to the cemetery, and they discover that the bag she threw out the window is still there.
But they do not see the murder weapon.
They feel like at some point the gun was in the bag, but someone came to remove it.
Now, investigators decide it's time to confront Orlando with everything they've just learned.
Now it was time to do round 2 with Orlando.
And detectives go in with another clever strategy.
When I sat across from Orlando, first thing I said was, Orlando, tell me about your daughter. We just interviewed her. Can you count on her?
Do you trust your daughter?
Yes.
Does she tell the truth most of the time?
Yes.
He was giving his daughter high marks. That's my baby. She never tells lies. She's sweet. And right then and there, we knew we had what we needed.
I spoke with your daughter. She has stated that you got to her house at 2:20 in the morning.
At the hotel?
Around 2:20 in the morning. Not 5 o'clock yesterday.
Orlando, we got timeline issues, my brother. When we look back on this case, we find out from Mia, she been lying for her daddy her whole life. He used his master manipulation skills on his own flesh and blood, his daughter. He made his daughter lie for him. This young lady at 18 years old was too immature to really absorb and understand the gravity of this situation, but he injected her into his murder scenario.
Atlanta detectives speaking with murder suspect Orlando Smith have just confronted him with the fact that his daughter Mia is no longer covering for him.
She was freeing herself from the bondage of her daddy. She was telling the truth. She wasn't going down that homicide road.
She has stated that you got to her house at 2:20 in the morning, not 5 o'clock yesterday.
Orlando, we got timeline issues, my brother.
She has stated that you asked her to dispose of a bag.
Dispose of a bag?
What reason would your daughter have to lie?
My daughter was a bitch was like, I'm gonna tell you.
But just a minute ago, you told Detective Quinn that she doesn't lie.
I'm like, damn, brother, you just told me your daughter was a paragon of virtue. Now you sitting up here saying she was born a liar. I mean, which one is it?
All right, bro, I need to talk to my sister and have my attorney here. Because I gave y'all all the information, and this is straight bogus.
And without even hearing another word come out of his mouth, this brother lawyered up. He said, I'm done. I'm out. The next step was to get Orlando going where he's gonna be going.
Investigators charge Orlando Smith with felony murder.
Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, Orlando opts to take his chances in front of a jury, and in October of 2011, his trial gets underway in a Fulton County courtroom.
When prosecutors make their opening statement, they present Orlando not to just be hateful and violent, but also greedy. He had just taken out a life insurance policy of $250,000 prior to killing his wife.
Based off what we know, he had ulterior motives from the giddy-up. The way he played her out like a pawn in this game he played with everyone else. This was gonna be his last game.
But Demetra saw the writing on the wall and knew she needed to leave Orlando for her own safety.
Whether or not she revealed that she was in fact leaving, it didn't take a rocket science to determine that their union was about to collapse.
And with the threat of Demetra leaving him for good, prosecutors believe Orlando took matters into his own hands on the night of May 25th, 2010.
Whatever the situation was that evening, it pushed Orlando to the brink.
I can't do this anymore, Orlando. I'm leaving you. What? I already got another apartment lined up and everything.
That sent him into a rage.
Prosecutors contend that he was so enraged that he retrieved her service weapon that she used at her job.
Oh my God, what are you doing?
Get on the bed.
Please.
Get on the bed.
He forced Demetra onto the bed, stuffed a sock into her mouth, forced her to turn over onto her face and put her hands behind her, and stood over her, firing one single shot, execution style, into the back of her head.
Prosecutors say once his wife was dead, Orlando staged the scene in an attempt to frame her ex-husband for the crime.
He changed his clothes and removed her wedding rings.
He leaves the rings in the sink and he trips the security alarm.
He had hoped that the police that responded to the security system going off would have come into the house and found Demetra dead. Unfortunately, police never entered the home.
After the murder, Orlando went to his daughter and asked her to say he was at her house all night long.
Even though Mia didn't actually see her stepmother killed by her father, she knew when she was given that 5 p.m. timeline by her daddy that she was participating in a lie.
Of course, that was her father. She loved him. She wanted to protect him, but it was eating away at her. And she finally decided to do the right thing and tell the truth.
But when it's time to present his defense, Orlando's team shifts the responsibility onto Mia.
He was trying to say that his daughter plotted this.
You're just grasping for whatever. You know, you're willing to pin that on your daughter? It's very disturbing.
And when it's Mia's turn to testify, they don't go easy on her.
Orlando's plan was make her feel stupid and make her look guilty. They tore her up on the stand, even though they know she didn't do it.
The defense's strategy isn't very effective.
Nobody was buying it. There's absolutely no evidence to suggest Mia was the mastermind.
And when the case goes to the jury, it doesn't take long to reach a verdict.
They found Orlando guilty of murder and also several firearm charges.
I mean, I feel good about the verdict, but before he got sentenced, I told him, I said, he need to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Acknowledging the pleas of Demetra's family, the judge sentences Orlando to life in prison, plus 5 additional years for the weapons charges.
He'll never see freedom again. So I was comfortable with that.
While the sentence may seem just, it does nothing to heal the pain and suffering of Demetra's loved ones.
His family wasn't so okay with him spending the rest of his life in prison. At least they can go visit. We can't even visit her. We have to go to the grave and visit her.
This murder is just yet another example of a continuing problem of women who are just looking for love.